After efforts to include a $15 an hour minimum wage hike in the coronavirus relief bill failed, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is thinking about using another strategy, except his strategy is to literally just repeat what we experienced failed the last time. So what he's planning on doing is including the $15 an hour minimum wage hike as a provision in the upcoming Biden infrastructure bill. Now, this is a $3 trillion piece of legislation that Biden is really focusing on as what will make his legacy. This is gonna be his signature legislation. And so Chuck Schumer is thinking, well, this is definitely gonna have to pass through reconciliation. So why don't we ensure that we include a $15 an hour minimum wage hike in there as a provision? Now, first of all, I don't have anything against that, but I certainly think that there are some downfalls to this method, mostly because of what we experienced the last time around. So let me give you the details of what Ryan Grimm over at the Intercept is reporting. He says that Schumer has suggested to progressive groups that there's a glimmer of hope that the parliamentarian would rule differently this time. The new legislation is focused on infrastructure, and setting wages is directly related to the budget impact of any infrastructure spending. If there's even a small chance of it working, he reasoned, it's worth the fight. Now, I'm again in favor of trying everything. The thing is, we've already tried this, not in the infrastructure bill, but specifically in the coronavirus relief bill. The unelected parliamentarian, which is essentially a glorified Senate staffer, said that under the so-called Byrd rule, you cannot include a minimum wage hike in that bill if you want to pass it through reconciliation, right? And so what happened? Well, Biden and Kamala Harris refused to overrule the parliamentarian, and in the end, what ended up happening was Senator Bernie Sanders, who's the chair of the Budget Committee, forced a Senate vote on whether or not to include that $15 an hour minimum wage hike, as an amendment in the legislation. And then you had 8 Democrats who voted against it. So there are 2 issues here. Issue number 1, parliamentarian. Issue number 2, we have Democrats. I mean, I'd love to say in name only, but we have all sorts of corporate Democrats who are not willing to fight on increasing the federal minimum wage. Few more details on Schumer's thinking, and then I want to get your thoughts, Cenk. Grimm reports that sources familiar with Schumer's thinking say that he's buoyed by the fact that the parliamentarian's ruling was just 1 line long, meaning it didn't offer any analysis that could be read as precedent. That the parliamentarian's analysis of the question was just 1 line long rankled some Senate Democrats, given that the parliamentarian is a staffer and her role is supposed to be advisory. So just to quickly comment on that, it just makes the whole debacle that we just experienced all the more infuriating. The fact that this Senate parliamentarian, an unelected, glorified Senate staffer, was able to put out 1 line rejecting the inclusion of a $15 an hour minimum wage in the relief bill. And Biden and Kamala Harris are like, yeah, obviously, that 1 line is good enough for us. We're not gonna overrule her. It's infuriating. But beside that point, Cenk, there are critics to what Schumer is saying. I guess I'm one of them because I just don't think that anything is going to change this time around. But you have a different take.
No, I have a completely different take. I love what Schumer's doing. And if you've been watching Young Turks, that is the first time you have ever heard me say that sentence in 19 years. So here's why not only do I like the strategy, but I think it's bold. That's probably another first in TYT history. So if Schumer's gonna put it into every bill, including this signature legislation of Biden that must pass, he's saying, okay, I'm gonna actually try to pass this thing. If you didn't want it passed, you wouldn't put it anywhere near this bill. And you would do everything in your power to make sure that it's not in this bill. So the fact that he's saying he's gonna put it in this bill is great news, okay? Number 2, think about what he's doing though. He's putting Manchin and Sinema on blast, saying you're gonna have to vote against minimum wage again, okay? So that's already super bold. Normally, what Democratic leadership does is they do stupid technical tricks that the press totally falls for 100% of the time. So it's super easy for them to do it. And they go, oh, there's nothing we can do. I guess we're never gonna vote on it. And so in this case, he's doing the opposite. He's saying, no, we're gonna vote on it this time, and we're gonna vote on it every time. And the second thing he's doing, which is, like, I almost hesitate in saying it because it's so bold. It's putting Biden and Kamala Harris in a difficult spot. Because every time Kamala Harris is gonna have to say, no, I care more about the parliamentarian and their advice, their one-line advice, more than I care about all of our voters, more than all of our promises, more than everything else, I care about this one line from the parliamentarian. That's a very difficult spot for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden to be in, and Schumer's putting them in a difficult spot. I've never seen that before. Democratic leadership is usually in lockstep, and they go, yes, they bury stuff like this. So I'm shocked by what Schumer's doing, and in a very positive way. Now, I do have significant criticism for progressives, because so-called progressives, and especially so-called leaders, because apparently some of them are fighting this, and it's to cover their own ass, which I will explain in a second. But Anna, can you not see, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, if you wanted to not do $15 minimum wage, you'd never talk about it again. The national media would never bring it up again, because they take their orders from Republican and Democratic leadership. This is the only reason you do this is if you actually want to pass it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think fighting for it and remaining persistent is important. So I give him credit for that. And I agree with your point about how really this is putting Biden and Kamala's feet to the fire, right? Because it is embarrassing for them specifically to continuously avoid overruling an unelected Senate staffer. With that said, though, I guess the reason why I'm a little more cynical or pessimistic about this than you are is the fact that Schumer can't just, and I feel like this is his tactic with gun control as well. He seems to think that as long as you have people vote on it and you just keep including it in legislation, well, then eventually maybe it'll work, right? Like he even said something about putting a standalone gun control bill on the Senate floor and she's like, I'm gonna force Republicans to vote against it. And I think the mistake that he's making is that he seems to think that Republicans would be embarrassed to vote against gun control measures. And in this particular case, with a $15 an hour minimum wage, I just want to remind you all of the show that we were all treated to by Senator Sinema when she got a chance to go up there and vote on a $15 an hour minimum wage. This is how she did it. What I'm about to do, please give me brownie points, please. Don't I deserve a cookie? I'm a good girl, I'm a good girl. She walks over there with her clueless outfit and
Miss Sinema
happily gives a thumbs down to a $15 an hour minimum wage. Now, obviously I'm providing that example because that was the most, I'm gonna be generous and say disappointing since I've already criticized her outfit there. But with that said, I think the mistake here is thinking that all you need to do is include the provision or force a vote, and then that's it. That's that your work is done. No, you need to do campaigning. You know that a $15 an hour minimum wage is popular in red states like West Virginia, like Arizona. Get off your ass and go do the campaigning necessary to embarrass these Democrats and make them bend to your will. That's when I'll believe that you actually want to pass a $15 an hour minimum wage.
Yeah, look, Anna, I agree with you, and that's what Bernie Sanders should be doing. He said if he became president, he would campaign in West Virginia to make sure that Manchin votes the right way. Well, he's the budget committee chair. He should go campaign in West Virginia. Instead, he's letting Manchin slide. This is a shocking role reversal. You're not gonna find anyone on the planet more cynical about Democratic leadership than me. But Anna, in Schumer putting it into every bill, if he actually does, because look, it ain't done until it's done. He can say that he's thinking about doing it, but maybe once like people get a load of the consequences, he might backpedal out of this. But if he really sticks with it, I'm gonna give him all the credit in the world, because by putting it in every bill, he's not embarrassing Republican senators. He's embarrassing Democratic senators over and over and over again. And that's what creates public pressure. So the very act of voting on it and having them vote, no, I'm against higher wages. No, I'm against higher wages. No, I'm against higher wages, while I wiggle myself voting no against higher wages, builds tremendous public pressure. Look, the next thing that's gonna happen in the next bill is 8 Democratic senators voted no, right? 2 of them are from Delaware. Coons and Harper did not vote no without asking Biden. Biden voted no. Biden voted no. That's the reality, okay? He sent Carper and Coons to vote no on his behalf. If you know 1% of politics, you understand that. But obviously, no one in the national media understands 1% of politics. They're like, oh, the 2 Delaware senators happen to vote against it. What a coincidence, right? No. So every time they vote, Biden and Harris go, no, I don't care, and I'm lying, right? That's a very tough spot to put him in. If Schumer delivers, I can't believe it. I can't believe Schumer's gonna do this. But if he delivers on that, no, he deserves tremendous credit. And that will definitely help us create the public pressure that we need on Biden, Harris, Manchin, and Sinema. And I wanna say one other thing about that. Look,
and there are more, real quick, Cenk, because it's important. It's not just like a couple of Democratic senators. I mean, it would be bad enough if it was just a couple of them, but it's not. So, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic for the sake of being pessimistic. I'm saying this because Schumer's got it half right, right? Like, yes, he needs to actually go through with it, but it's not the end all be all. There's the second half of this strategy, which he needs to engage in, or if he has difficulty making the case, as he's not the greatest public speaker, get some more charismatic people within Congress to do the campaigning on your behalf. But nonetheless, like we're talking about John Tester, Jeanne Shaheen, Maggie Hassan, Tom Carper, Angus King, like in addition to everyone else that we already mentioned. So I just want to give you that context as well. But Cenk, go ahead.
Yeah. So look, guys, we have a poll on this. Should Schumer put it in these bills? Go to tyt.com/polls. In specifically the infrastructure bill. Okay, and remember the infrastructure bill could be great, and then that creates bigger conflict in the infrastructure bill. So yes, there are complexities to this, but I'm voting yes by a country mile. And to the point that Anna's making, yeah, I mean, the Senate Majority Leader is willing to embarrass 8 corporate Democrats to vote on this again in a must-pass bill that's Biden's signature legislation. I haven't seen that in my lifetime. And so I think that's a great development. And I'm gonna say one more thing, guys. Now I'm gonna quote Grimm's comment. And by the way, Grimm says later in the article, that's just his analysis, that he thinks those 8 Democratic senators would flip fairly quickly. The real key is Manchin and Sinema, right? The other 6 would flip. Look, Carper and Coons, the minute Biden says yes, they say yes. The fact that no one has pointed out such an obvious point is just shows you the complete failing of our national media. But I want to read you this part of Grimm's report in the Intercept. He says, Schumer, though, is encountering resistance from some backers of the increasing minimum wage who argue attempting to include it is doomed to fail just as it did last time. And this is the important part. And in the process, it will trigger another wave of indignation from the public at the failure. Yeah, that's called public pressure. That is so-called progressive leaders in Congress saying, we don't want to vote on it because it'll embarrass us. Oh my God, that's embarrassing. Look, I don't know who his sources are, and he should never tell me. Okay, and I'm sure he won't because he's a real journalist. But that is humiliating for progressive leadership to say, do not vote on our priorities because we'll get public pressure because we suck at our jobs and we don't know how to make it pass. So Chuck Schumer, you're trying to help us? Don't help us because it creates political pressure for us. Whoever that is should not be in anywhere near leadership, shouldn't even call themselves progressive. That's absolutely embarrassing. You fight for your positions. And when you're lucky enough to have a corporate Democrat back you, are you crazy? You take it, don't, I mean, you're gonna look at a gift horse in the mouth. Are you insane? Oh, well, it might embarrass me because I suck at my job. Well, then it should embarrass you. Who the hell are these people? Look, right now, progressive leadership in Congress is in a very, very sorry state. That's just the reality of it. And I don't care who it offends. They've all gotten to be elitists now and go, we are Congress people. You cannot criticize us. How dare you give us public pressure? I don't remember any of them saying that as they were running against incumbents.
I think one of the biggest issues is that the public pressure is, it's not organized, which means that what ends up happening, as we saw with the cinema story, is you'll see a piece of video that infuriates people, and the fury is justified, and then it just kind of dissipates. It just kind of goes away, right? And everyone's off to the next. That's why, you might have criticisms over how Bernie handled the $15 an hour minimum wage battle in the relief bill. But putting that aside, the other thing that he's focused on that I think is really important is getting workers organized, including traveling to Bessemer, Alabama, to help galvanize the efforts to unionize among warehouse workers there. Once you have an organized workforce like that, that's when the public pressure becomes real. That is what this country experienced in the lead up to the New Deal. You think that Roosevelt just decided to pass the New Deal out of the kindness of his own heart? No, there were general strikes happening. Unfortunately, a lot of those strikes ended up getting incredibly violent and brutal and bloody. But the victories that this country enjoyed as a result of that New Deal happened on the backs of organized labor. And so that's the other part of this as well. You need lawmakers who are willing to implement out of the box strategies. And I guess in this case, it isn't really out of the box, but a strategy. You need actual campaigning and policy work, political work done on the ground by these lawmakers to push for the policies that they're trying to pass. And then you need organized, labor to not only apply pressure temporarily, but apply persistent pressure until we get what we need.
Yeah.
So this is, yeah.
You know what though? Bernie's good at putting pressure on people that he's not in a room with. So he puts a ton of pressure on Amazon, and I love it, and I give him credit for it every time. He's the one that got him to raise their minimum wage to 15. And how did he do it? He did it through a public pressure campaign. Now Schumer's giving you a gift. Well, you're still not going to pressure Manchin and Sinema? You're still not going to pressure Biden and Harris?
But,
nah, that's ridiculous. So,
but how do you know he's not going to pressure? I mean, he wasn't mentioned in that article.
No, I don't know. I don't know, but I don't see him. Look, on $15 minimum wage, proof is in the pudding. Has it passed? No. Has he put any pressure, 1 ounce of pressure on Democratic colleagues? The answer is no. That's just a fact. He didn't even want to introduce the bill for fear that they would vote and get outed. Well, so okay, now they got outed. And so is he doing anything about it? Is he campaigning in West Virginia? It's easy to put pressure on Amazon. It is not easy to put pressure on people that you think are your friends. See, I'm doing it right now. I'm endangering every friend and alliance that I have to try to get $15 minimum wage passed. If others are not willing to do that, okay, well then you know their priorities. Sorry, Bernie, you get no credit until you pass it.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.